Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus Show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. We're looking at three highlights this evening. Pakistan's three-front war, Prime Minister Modi's visit to Bhutan, and the India-Alliance doublespeak. But let's begin with the three-front war that Pakistan is looking at. It's been a rough few days along the Af-Pak border. It started last weekend after deadly Pakistan Taliban raid killed 7 Pakistani soldiers. The Pakistani Air Force struck back. They hit targets inside Afghanistan, and the Taliban then retaliated with cross-border fire. Now, in recent months, Pakistan has exchanged fire with Iran. The border with India continues to remain tense. Is Pakistan now faced with a three-front problem? And joining me to discuss this, our senior journalist Imtiaz Gul from Islamabad, Mr. Subir Bhowmick in the studio here with me, as is my colleague Deepak Bhadana. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus Show. I want to start by asking Gul Saab, is Pakistan looking at problems on 3 of its 4 international boundaries, Gul Saab?
Yeah, I think for all practical reasons, Pakistan currently finds itself in a three-front situation. Obviously, the front with India is quiet.
Right.
It's like a stalemate.
Yes.
But the front with Afghanistan has been really hot. It has never been this bad, even during President Karzai and President Ashraf Ghani's days, primarily because of the Afghan Taliban's reticence. They continue to be in a state of denial as far as the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan is concerned, which has been inflicting pain on Pakistan. March 16 was again another big day when a lieutenant colonel and a captain beside the 5 others were killed in a deadly suicide attack. It was multiple suicide attacks. So Pakistan has been telling the Afghan Taliban to take care of the TTP, which is living, which is training, sheltering in Afghanistan. Its leaders lives in Kabul with his family. Another leader, Sardar Hafiz Gul Bahadur, lives in the mountains of Kunar. So Pakistan, as far as the western border is concerned, is really in a very tight corner at the moment. 2 or 3 of the border points are also closed following these skirmishes between the 2 security forces.
Right, absolutely. And Subir, since you've been covering it for the BBC for decades, you know, this whole, of course, there is the Taliban takeover in 2021. And then you had last year the specter of very large population displacement when the Pakistani state expelled a lot of Afghan refugees who had been there for decades. Now, give us a sense of how this could actually spell instability in the future.
I'll first tell you why this is happening. You know, Pakistan has been a military state, a garrison state, as some authors have called it. You leave diplomacy to soldiers, you are asking for trouble. They're not trained for that. Diplomats have to handle diplomacy, politicians have to handle diplomacy. But where in a country where ISI chief or army chief will dictate, you know, what the diplomatic steps should be, this is what happens. That you pick up fights on every front. I'm reminded of a famous observation by an historian about Napoleon, that Napoleon the general set for Napoleon the statesman an impossible task, and the guards perished in the snows of Russia. So, you know, here is a bunch of generals who really don't know anything about diplomacy. They don't have a world picture. They have very narrow tactical outlook of the situation rather than a larger strategic view of the thing. And this is why they picked on fights with everybody. They have a problem with India. It's an ongoing long-term problem. They have a problem with the Afghans. Another thing, the Pakistan state, the ISI, the army, they backed the Taliban, they backed the Mujahideen. But they failed to understand, despite these kind of intimate interaction, the real character of the Afghans. Nobody dictates the Afghans.
No one tells
they stand up against the British, they stand up against the Russians, they stood up against the Americans. You mean to say they will play footsie with the Pakistanis? No way. Until such time the Durand line is there and this, you know, trans-border issues are there, this is going to be a hot spot. And if the Pakistanis think that they have air power and they're going to neutralize the Afghans will precisely do to them what they have done to many other people. You know? These Pakistanis have taught them suicide bombing, they're going to get it back. Iran is also a zealot state, as I would put it. So you pick on a fight with the Revolutionary Guards, you're asking for trouble. And if Iran decides to, hit back in a different way, they will start backing the Baloch movement. So Pakistan will have trouble on all fronts. So instead of a plate with good dishes, you have live crabs. You have live, all kinds of stuffs which you can't eat.
Snakes. I'm going to come to you in a minute, Deepak. But Gul Sahab, I'm just reading out a statement by the Taliban spokesperson, Zabihullah Mujahid. Now, he seems to echo what Subirda here is telling us, that I want to quote what he said, that the Pakistani people and government should stop their military generals from continuing their wrong policies for the benefit of others, as they've been doing for the last 20 years, and spoiling relations between two neighboring Muslim countries. So, the Taliban making a distinction between the people of Pakistan and the Pakistan army. Is that the core of the issue between Afghanistan and Pakistan? The fact that they don't want to take orders from the Pakistan military, and there seems to be a falling out there, contrary to what we had expected in 2021.
I think you cannot really say anything for definitely about this distinction between the Pakistani people and the military. The Taliban know very well, and as do our Indian brothers and others, that the military remains a very essential part of Pakistan's political landscape. There is no wishing away. However, when people like Zabihullah Mujahid say this, you should take it with a big pinch of salt. Just because they have been told repeatedly that they cannot, run with the hare, run with the how do you call it? Run with the hound and hunt with the hare. You cannot do this cloak and dagger policy. Repeatedly, despite all the confidence-building measures that Pakistan undertook just to facilitate the lives of Afghans, they have kept sheltering the TTP, and now Pakistan has drawn a line that until conclusive action against the TTP, there won't be any going back to relations, the normal relations.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you, Gul Sahab, about Hafiz Gul Bahadur, very interesting character, floating, the phantom floating between the Waziristan border. But I'm going to ask Deepak about this. Deepak, 2021, we were discussing the fact that how Pakistan actually said that Afghanistan would be strategic depth for Pakistan, but clearly that doesn't seem to have worked. Why are everyone's calculations on Afghanistan why does it always fail? Whether it's America, whether it's the Soviet Union, and now Pakistan?
I think the answer is very simple, because all these calculations leave out the Afghan sentiments. I think these are calculations and dreams and aspirations of powers who project their desires and aspirations onto the Afghan populace. So to begin with, that is the place. But like everyone, the people who make these projections, in this case presently Pakistan, they find themselves backed up into a corner. If you look at what has happened to Pakistan in the last 3 months, Pakistan has strategically placed itself into a very tight box, and it has no option but to retaliate. So when it came to the Iranian bombing, Pakistan had no option but to retaliate.
Using the Air Force.
Using the Air Force. A similar case has happened with the Afghan raid. Because the understanding is that should the Pakistani army fail to act, it will become an example for everyone else to follow. The question is that should matters escalate, does the Pakistani state actually have the resources and, more importantly, the stomach for a full-fledged war with an enemy like the Taliban? I personally don't think so.
Subirda,
I want to bring out the contrast. The point I was making about generals doing diplomacy and politicians. Look at Bangladesh. Contrast. Come out of Pakistan, inherited some of those cultures, but then Sheikh Hasina has taken complete control. The military is now a professional military like India. And look at Sheikh Hasina balancing India, China and the West with elan and grace. balancing India and China is not the easiest thing for a small country.
Absolutely.
Mr. Muizu has failed to do that. He's gone into Chinese pocket.
Right.
Somebody would be the reverse of it.
Yes.
But Sheikh Hasina brilliantly balancing both India and China and the West to a large extent. So when a politician of experience and wisdom is in charge, that's what happens. Pakistan, if the army is in charge,
Yes.
you're asking for trouble. I agree with Gul Saab that, Pakistan army is a part of Pakistan and all that.
Yes.
But I have to remind people that the Indian army does not tell Indian politicians.
Right.
They may have a security viewpoint when
Yes.
it comes to place like China or Pakistan, but they will never impose. Even great General Sam Manekshaw
Yes.
had to take his orders from Indira Gandhi. He could not start the war all by himself. He had to
Absolutely,
go
yes.
within the political framework. That
Completely
Mrs.
under the political leadership.
Sheikh Hasina, look,
Yes.
there were military coups in
Yes.
Bangladesh. It was a hangover of Pakistan.
Right, right.
General Zia, General Ershad.
Yes.
But over a period of time, she has taken complete control. The
Right.
army is now a professional military. They get drafted into a lot of UN peacekeeping.
Yes.
So, because their reputation as a professional force
Right.
has gone up, they don't interfere. Diplomacy is left to politicians, professional politicians, professional diplomats.
Right.
She has been taking professional diplomats into her cabinet, and that's how she can manage India, she can balance China, she can balance the West.
Absolutely. And Gul Saab, two quick questions for you before we let you go. The first one is, of course, this character Hafiz Gul Bahadur, who we've been hearing of for the last couple of years. This phantom who's floating between the Af-Pak border. And there is, of course, the HGB faction is distinct from the TTP, which is the Wali Mehsood faction.
Yes, Wali Mehsood.
And you have the Afghan Taliban. Now, there is one view that all of these factions are separate. They're all fighting on their own. One doesn't talk to the other. But there is another view which says that in recent months, all of these factions have actually come together, and it is now one unified Taliban that is sitting on in Pakistan's western border. How credible is this fact that all these factions are actually working together now to torment the Pakistani state?
Well, the Afghan Taliban wouldn't have anything direct to do with either of these factions. One thing is very clear. Hafiz Gul Bahadur has been very close to the Pakistan army until 2014, when
he was a good Taliban back in the day.
Yeah, he was, because he was helping also in development projects. He was taking care, providing protection to the Pakistan army and government officials. But when the operations Zarb started in June 2014, he had to flee to the Kunard province of Afghanistan, and also with him went the Haqqani network, whose seminaries, whose mosques were also demolished. So the Haqqani network is the overarching umbrella, ideological umbrella for a lot of factions that are now fighting against Pakistan, including the TTP, including Hafiz Bahadur. However, the TTP is a proxy terrorist outfit.
Yes.
So Hafiz Gul Bahadur has also become one. And Haqqani. So, and the other thing that is clear, because of this ideological umbrella, all of them want the restoration of a particular area which we used to call FATA, the federally administered tribal areas. So, and they have refused any compromise on this demand. And this is what leads us to believe that these are all proxy terrorists whose only agenda is to destabilize Pakistan, keep inflicting pain on the Pakistani security forces. And that they wouldn't have anything directly to do with the Afghan Taliban, who, however, are just looking the other way, sheltering them, hosting them. And this is where the trouble begins between Afghan Taliban and Pakistan.
That's where the trouble begins between Afghan Taliban and Pakistan. And Subirda, as they said once, snakes in the backyard. And the snakes today are on the western border of Pakistan. As Gul Saab was saying, they've all come together. They have different agendas. The fight for FATA continues, and Pakistan's three-front war is likely to exacerbate over the next couple of months, given the huge inflow of refugees into Afghanistan, adding to this tinderbox. But thank you very much, Gul Saab, for joining us, as always, with your insights. Subir continues with me here in the studio. Thanks very much, Deepak, for joining us this evening. The India alliance formed to unite against the BJP is facing internal rifts, raising doubts about the bloc's ability to present a united front against the BJP. Now, as seat-sharing discussions stall, these struggles continue between the Congress and its probable allies. What's the state of play right now at the India alliance talks? Joining me to discuss more on the prospects of this alliance are Jayanta Bhattacharya, senior journalist, my colleague Brajesh Pandey here in the studio with me. Jayanta, I want to start by asking you, 80 seats where the India alliance are going to be fighting each other. How do you see this kind of disunity at the states, unity at the center, this dichotomy playing out as they take on the BJP and the NDA?
What I believe is that any pre-poll alliance is not an easy equation where the left hand side will equal the right hand side. And one more important thing that you mentioned while introducing the topic of discussion today is that Congress and its allies. Yeah. So you need a party which has a say, which is in control of the situation politically as well as geographically, so that it can negotiate. Right. But here what we see is with the regional satraps, the Congress is joining whether they want it or not, but they have to join the discussion table and they have to sort out things, which in many places are not happening. What we see in perhaps in West Bengal, what we see in Punjab, what we see in Maharashtra is just a reflection of that aspect only. Now, Delhi, Bihar, to some extent Uttar Pradesh, they have been comparatively easier. But they still have to thrash out, and what I believe, what I've been told, is perhaps by the end of this week, before this week ends, with all probabilities, the Maharashtra issue may be settled among the alliance partners. And on top of that, when they are talking to each of these allies, they have actually come out of the Congress itself. So at heart, they started off with politically an anti-Congress stand for various reasons. So all things put together, there are regional interests to be taken care of, political aspects that have to be taken care of. That is why I started off by saying that this equation may not be so easy to match between the left and the right side.
Brajesh, how is this different from what happened in 2019?
Well, I think, what is happening right now is that the Congress is being too clever by half. The reason I'm saying this is that if you look at the 5 state assembly elections, all the regional parties which were aligned with the Congress party, they all said that let's settle this seat sharing issue before we go to the Vidhan Sabha elections. Assembly polls in 5 states. Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and others. The problem with the Congress party is that at that point of time, Congress thought that we are going to win 3 states and that will increase our stature within the India alliance combined. And they started stalling the queries of their alliance partners. And if you remember, the famous jibe of Nitish Kumar, where he said that when a reporter asked him a question about, sir, what is the potential there? Why don't you go and ask the Congress party, which is busy fighting assembly elections, but they have no idea about how to take on Modi in the national election. What happened was that post the loss, the first thing which they did was call up their ally partner. But that time, everybody had understood that Congress is regional +1 and nothing more.
Regional
+1. In the sense that, they are in 2-3 states. First among equals. I mean, how is Rahul Gandhi more important than Mamata Banerjee or say, for example, in any other place? It beats me. So the biggest problem with the Congress party is they have been indecisive right from the word go. Too clever by half, thinking that this will enhance my stature. It ended up puncturing your stature. The second thing is their inability to understand the situation on the ground and always punching above their weight. They say the situation in Bihar. We want 16 seats, we want 15 seats. You will not be able to win 5 seats on your own. So you have to be realistic vis-a-vis the number of seats your regional satrap is fighting, which he is capable of winning. They were said to be the reason why Tejasvi Yadav could not fight the government, because Congress took a large chunk and the conversion rate was abysmal.
And which is why he's sitting in the opposition.
The same was with Akhilesh Yadav. We want 40 seats, we want 30 seats. So, this constant bickering also leaves a bitter taste in these regional satraps who have cut their teeth. They are doing more politics day in, day out than Rahul Gandhi does in a month.
Right.
So, this is the reason why this alliance, so there's a fissures within the alliance, is majority, 70% I would say, is because of the Congress inept attitude.
Very, very interesting points there. Jayanta, what Brajesh just mentioned, the fact that the Congress is now a shadow of its former self.
Absolutely.
And winnability of the Congress is actually the elephant in the room, which it is unprepared to answer. How badly is this going to affect the India Alliance's prospects in the days ahead?
I totally agree with Brajesh, a point that he has put forward, that the Congress is not able to somehow convert. When going into elections, they will want their own pound of flesh, but in the end, they are not able to deliver. Whether I remember right now when I see talking about Uttar Pradesh, 2017, I beg your pardon. In 2017, they called it UP ke ladke.
Yes.
Wherein Rahul Gandhi, the Congress leader, and Akhilesh Yadav, the Samajwadi Party leader, hand in hand, they campaigned from an open automobile asking for votes.
Right.
What happened? There was a slide, a bad slide. It was disastrous, for both of them and more for the Congress. When they went their different paths, the Samajwadi Party did much better, not the Congress. They did worse. If I remember correctly, the Samajwadi attained the Nelsons. I've been 111 seats, if I remember correctly. So we should not, of course, compare Vidhan Sabha elections with Lok Sabha. But that kind of a picture comes to my mind again about UP ke ladke joining hands once again, despite the difference. And it's very similar. What happened in 2017? That time also there were lots of misunderstanding, lots of complaints. They came together at the last moment. Same thing was being repeated, is being repeated right now also. So let us see what happened. Again, if you see in Bihar, again I will give the example of the last election, Vidhan Sabha election, wherein all these Mahagathbandhan, where even Nitish Kumar was there as the face. The left did pretty well. They raised their tally, which in the last few years, I don't think once upon a time the CPI used to be very powerful, but not later on. But when these three main left parties, that is the CPI, MLL, Liberation, the CPIM, Marxist, and the CPI, Communist Party of India, all three of them went together. They did very well. But look at the Congress, they were not able to convert. So that is why I started off by saying that here, when we are talking about Congress and its allies, the Congress has to come up, as a national party, in a way, not in that way, but still the big brother. But they are not able to do so. As Brajesh rightly pointed out, maybe a state party plus not one, maybe half.
Right, not one plus, but half. I mean, he's cut it down by 50%. But can we expect anything from the manifesto, Brajesh? We're looking forward to the
manifesto. What we have been given to understand, Sandeep, is that they will go back to they will provide larger seas, give, all the kind of freebies will be promised, all the guarantees to, we will give 1 lakh rupees to individual per year to individual, or especially females who are not working anywhere, they don't fall into the bracket, return of OPS Raj and all. But see, if you look at the way they are functioning, their alliance partner in West Bengal. You on one side you are reaching out to Mamata Banerjee, and but you should know how she is. She is very mercurial, but she's also very headstrong when it comes to certain things. And the tweet of Derek O'Brien pretty much sums up what's wrong with the Congress. That the reason why we are not going with Congress is Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, and Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary. So you have these loose cannons who you're not able to control them. Then you think that you're still not haven't gotten out of that megalomania of the past, that we are the one, we are the rulers and the inheritors of this earth. So this dichotomy is something which is not allowing Congress to have a clear picture of what lies ahead.
This dichotomy is something that's not allowing the Congress to get a clear picture, but that's the elephant in the room, the fact that the winnability of the Congress is a major issue, and the India Alliance doublespeak is actually a result of this fact, that the regional parties are not sure that the Congress can win seats on its own, and which is why they prefer to fight the BJP in their own regional states. And thank you very much, Jayanta, for highlighting this huge problem, this huge elephant in the room. And Brajesh, of course, this is an issue that's going to bedevil the India Alliance in the days ahead as we head into the general elections. Thanks for watching.
Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.